The distress signal had been broadcasting for 11 standard cycles before the Galactic Alliance finally decoded it. A colony ship, the Serapha's Promise, had been dragged off course by a rogue gravitational anomaly and crash-landed on Kareth 7, a barely classified rock orbiting a dying star on the fringe of explored space. 237 souls. Dwindling oxygen reserves. And a rescue fleet still 14 cycles away. The Alliance had one option within range. Humanity. High Chancellor Zareth of the Vothani Collective pressed 4 of his 6 fingers together in the gesture that translated, roughly, as reluctant necessity. He had heard stories, of course. Every species in the Alliance had heard the stories. But stories had a way of growing. Of distorting. Surely, he told himself, the humans could not be as extreme as the rumors suggested. He opened a channel to the Unbroken Meridian, the lead vessel of the human expeditionary fleet currently running survey operations near the Kareth sector, and waited. The face that appeared on his screen was not what he expected. Admiral Darian Voss looked like something that had been assembled from spare parts of a larger, more dangerous creature. She was broad across the shoulders, with a jaw that could crack stone and eyes the color of a winter sea, calm, calculating, and utterly without fear. A thin scar ran from her left temple to the corner of her mouth, which was currently curled into something between a smile and a challenge. "High Chancellor," she said. Her voice was low and unhurried, the way a planet speaks when it decides to move. "I understand you need someone to go somewhere dangerous fast." Zareth composed himself. "Admiral Voss. A colony vessel, the Serapha's Promise, has crash-landed on Kareth 7. 237 survivors. The planet has? I've already pulled the file." She glanced sideways at something off-screen. "Gravity is 1.4 standard. Atmosphere is 62% nitrogen, 31% methane, trace sulfur compounds. Surface temperature averages -40. Active geological instability. 3 species of megafauna we haven't catalogued yet." She looked back at him. "When do we leave?" Zareth blinked all 4 of his eyelids. "You are not concerned?" "About what?" "The conditions I just described would kill most species within minutes of exposure." Admiral Voss tilted her head slightly, the way Zareth had seen predators do when they were deciding whether something was prey or just interesting. "Chancellor, my crew spent the last 3 months surveying a binary star system with active coronal loops. Before that, we did a deep dive through a hypoxic trench on Meridian 9 just to retrieve a broken probe." She paused. "Kareth 7 sounds like a weekend." The channel closed. The humans were already moving. The Unbroken Meridian reached Kareth 7 in 6 hours, a transit time that made Zareth's science team argue briefly about whether the human ship had cheated somehow. It had not. The humans had simply decided that the recommended safe approach speed was a suggestion. What followed was documented in the official Alliance After Action report as extraordinary by any reasonable measure of the term. The crash site was located in a geological rift zone, unstable ground that the Alliance's own risk assessment had flagged as inadvisable for surface operations. The human shuttle went in anyway. When a seismic event collapsed the Western Access Tunnel 30 minutes into the operation, Lieutenant Commander Jody Reyes, the human ground team lead, reportedly looked at the rubble, said something untranslatable in her native language, picked up a support strut with her bare hands, and started digging. It took 4 humans 40 minutes to clear a passage that the Alliance's automated systems had calculated would require specialized excavation equipment in 9 hours. The megafauna presented a separate problem. Kareth 7's dominant predators, subsequently named Kareth Apex Class, Category 3 in the official Xenobiology Registry, were ambush hunters massing somewhere between 800 and 1,000 kilograms, with reinforced cranial plating and a sensory array that could detect movement through solid rock. 2 of them circled the crash site within the first hour of human arrival. The Alliance observer, a Vothani named Preeth, was recording when the first creature made its move toward the survivor camp. He later described what happened as the single most unsettling thing he had ever witnessed. Corporal Mona Dai stepped between the creature and the camp. She was carrying a sonic emitter in one hand and a length of reclaimed hull plating in the other. The creature, which outweighed her by approximately 35-1, paused. It processed the information in front of it. Then, and Preeth replayed this footage 12 times to be certain, it turned around and left. It read her, Preeth wrote in his personal log that evening. The animal understood something I am only beginning to grasp. That organism was a predator assessing risk. And it decided she was more dangerous than it was. Admiral Voss coordinated the evacuation from the shuttle bay of the Unbroken Meridian, her voice steady over the calm as she tracked 16 simultaneous extraction routes, monitored a deteriorating oxygen system aboard the wreck, managed 2 aftershock events, and ate a nutrition block without once dropping her stylus. When the last survivor, a Vothani child, separated from her family and lodged in a collapsed cargo bay, was finally pulled free, it was Sergeant Hyun-woo Park who carried her out. He had been in the sulfur-laced atmosphere, in jury-rigged emergency gear, for 4 hours beyond the recommended human exposure limit. When the medic aboard the shuttle moved to treat him first, he waved her off and pointed to the child. "Her first," he said simply. "I'm fine." The medic, a human herself, gave him a look. "You're showing signs of atmospheric poisoning." "Yeah," he said, leaning back against the wall and closing his eyes. "I've had worse." High Chancellor Zareth received the mission completion report 14 hours after the humans had departed. 237 survivors recovered. 0 human casualties. The geological rift zone had suffered 2 additional seismic events during the operation. Both had been worked around. He read the report twice. Then he sat in silence for a long moment. His aide, a young Vothani named Orith, stepped into the chamber. "Chancellor? The Alliance Council is requesting your assessment of the Human Response Protocol. Should we recommend expanding the partnership for future high-risk operations?" Zareth thought about Admiral Voss's face when he had listed Kareth 7's dangers. The way she had not blinked. The way she had said "sounds like a weekend" as if she meant it as a compliment to the planet, not a dismissal of the threat. He thought about the creature that had looked at a single human woman and decided to find easier prey. He thought about a soldier who had breathed poisoned air for 4 hours and called it fine. "Yes," said the High Chancellor, quietly. "Expand the partnership." He paused. "And perhaps also, extend a formal note of gratitude." Orith made a note. "Anything specific you'd like to say?" Zareth was quiet for a moment longer. "Tell them, we called for help," he said at last. "And we are very glad it was them who answered." On the other side of the sector, aboard the Unbroken Meridian, Admiral Darian Voss filed her mission report in 12 minutes, flagged 3 new megafauna species for the xenobiology team, and then asked her crew if anyone wanted to run the Kareth 7 obstacle course simulation for fun. 14 people immediately said yes.